Hey guys, today we got an interesting vlog. Expats with low self-worth often engage in these 8 people-pleasing behaviors. I've seen a lot of expats go in and out of here. I've seen a lot of expats and hear from a lot of expats. A lot of expats call me up. A lot of people have anxiety issues, PTSD. A lot of veterans come over here with a lot of issues. A lot of people just carry a lot of baggage with them over here. But if you engage in these 8 people-pleasing behaviors to try to make new friends here or whatever, because a lot of guys get lonely over here and they're always trying to please people. And you don't want to give up yourself, okay? Because a lot of guys come over here, and when you do that, you actually end up in a worse place than when you came. You know, and I'm gonna read some of these things here. Saying yes to everything. There's a lot of guys that they're just people pleasers. They just want to become friends, and you kind of give up a little bit of yourself too, because you give up your happiness every time you say yes to somebody. People look at you, and people look at yes men as kind of lower on the totem pole, because they look at you like you're weak. You're very weak, and you'll probably tend to get picked on more. A lot of people will poke fun at you. The narcissists will gravitate towards you as a potential target more, because you're always saying yes to everything, and you have to kind of cut back and learn not to do that. And we're going to come up with some more of these pretty soon as we go on here. The next thing is avoiding conflicts. When you're always saying yes to people, that's kind of avoiding some conflicts, but sometimes you have to take on some conflicts. Don't give up your boundaries. Don't give up yourself. And if you're going to say yes to everything, you're never going to disagree or argue with anyone else, but of course you'll want to. It says in here, people pleasers are renowned for avoiding conflict because they'd rather not express themselves than have to go toe-to-toe with someone else or cause friction. They always want things to run smoothly and would rather sacrifice their own feelings if it means increased social cohesion. You got to be careful of stuff like this. I see a lot of people, and I've kind of fell into some of these in the past myself. We all do. We all want to be liked by people or have friends, and the expat community can be very rough. And anybody that lives in an expat community knows that it can be really, really, really rough. Especially when you're with military, there's the ball busting. There's a lot of ball busting going on, and that kind of gets out of control sometimes, because sometimes people take that ball busting as serious, and you got to kind of be careful of that. The next one, number 3, is apologizing. Some people never apologize, or some people apologize all the time. If you're apologizing all the time, also that makes you look overly timid and meek. People tend to look at chronic apologizers as weak and even pathetic, and I find that really to be true. If I see somebody always apologizing, it makes them kind of look weak. A balanced person is supposed to be able to reflect on their own actions and take responsibility for the things that they do wrong, like making mistakes or hurting others. This is when you should apologize, right? But if you go around apologizing for things that aren't your fault or even have nothing to do with you, you're doing it inauthentically. You're trying too hard to please people to keep things smooth by offering yourself up as a scapegoat. Who wants to be a scapegoat? Nobody wants to be a scapegoat, and nor should you be. If you're right, you're right. If you're wrong, you're wrong. You apologize if you're wrong, and if you're right, you don't apologize. Now, here's number 4 here, going along with a group. People pleasers tend to want to go along with the group, even if the group's wrong. If you see that they're heading in the wrong direction or something like that, why do you want to be a part of that group? Groups can be wrong too. So you definitely want to be careful on that one, And here's the biggest one of all, and I've gone over this once many, many times in the past, and all you guys should know this by now if you've watched my channel regularly, is not maintaining boundaries. That's number 5. And boundaries are lines nobody should cross, and when people cross your boundaries, you got to stick up for those boundaries. Some people try to walk all over your boundaries. You have the right to do things that you want to do And if somebody tells you, no, you can't do that, and you know that you can, but you back down, you're giving up a piece of yourself. And nobody should be doing that. And the next thing here is making sacrifices. A lot of people sacrifice themselves too much. Remember, you always see that mom who was always sacrificing for her children, and then later on in life, when the kids got older, they never came to visit her. And that's kind of, when you make sacrifices for people, people forget those things. They really do. They just don't appreciate it that much. Because if you're always sacrificing, they just figure that's you. That's you. That's who you are. You're always going to sacrifice. They don't think it's a big deal because it's not special anymore. And the next one is overcommitting. Now, this is one where I probably lack at the most, and I overcommit myself a lot of the times. I answer the phone as much as I can. I go to the PRA with people. I help them out around here. And it takes away a bit of your free time. And in the Philippines, we're retired, and we want to live like we're retired also. So we want to live in peace and in our quiet solitude, and when you're always sacrificing for people, you're putting out time for these people, and some of them don't even deserve it, and some of them do. I mean, the people that I help are very good people, most of them. I would say like about 95% of the people that I help are very grateful that I help them, and there's that 5% that don't, but I mean, you're always going to run into that, And the next thing is giving gifts. Make sure you just give gifts to people that mean something to you. Don't be giving gifts out to try to win over friendships or whatever. Don't be that person. You don't want to be a person that gives out gifts to everybody because it looks like you're trying to buy those friendships or what have you. But most of all, and I'm going to have this be my final note, is this. Remember, boundaries are always number one. Boundaries in my book here, setting boundaries are number one. Set boundaries for yourself too. Say, you know what, I'm only going to work this many hours this week. I'm only going to do this here this week, and that's it. That's my boundary. Set boundaries for yourself, set boundaries for other people, and tell people if they're, if people are, just as an example, if people are coming over your house all day long and every day, knocking on your door 4 or 5 times a day for this and for that and need help with this, set boundaries. Say, hey, listen, I need some time by myself. You want to come over once a day or something like that, that's fine. I mean, I'm using that as an example. But things like that happen, like set your boundaries. If you feel like somebody's taking advantage of you, set those boundaries straight with that person. Tell them, say, hey, listen, Joe or Bill or whatever his name is, I need you to, follow this here for me because, you're kind of overdoing this with me, and, I need some time for myself or what have you. Most people will listen to you. And that's what you need to do. You have to really set those boundaries, especially with Filipinas over here. You need really clear-cut boundaries with Filipinas over here. When they cross those boundaries, you need to, stop them immediately and say, hey, look, boundaries, you're crossing my boundary right now. You just crossed it. And let them know, like if something's happening with that girl and she's taking advantage of you or whatever, make sure you set boundaries. And you should set those boundaries before those things even happen, so you can revert back to it and say, hey, remember when I told you when we met? That's when you set the boundaries. That way you can always go back to that and say, hey, look, when we met, I told you this here, and you keep doing this, and this to me all the time, and I told you I would break off with you if you do this here, and if you keep doing it, I'm gonna call it quits because I can't handle this anymore. Those are clear-cut boundaries, and make sure she understands those boundaries very clear, because sometimes over in the Philippines there's language barriers. Believe it or not, there's a lot of people in the Philippines that can speak English, but they don't speak it well enough that they understand some of the things that you're saying. They'll yes you to death, like we were talking about in this video. A lot of Filipinos fall into the categories of all these things. They will yes you to death. They will give up themselves to people too much. They don't set boundaries with people. Filipinas should also set boundaries with people. And you can also teach your Filipina to be able to stand up for herself sometimes, because sometimes Filipinas need help, and you could have them watch this video or whatever so that they understand that there are clear-cut boundaries that everybody should set. And if people are taking advantage of you. Boundaries, that's where boundaries come in. Boundaries are like fences. That's where people stop. Anyway, guys, God bless. Take care. I hope you enjoyed today's show. God bless, guys.